So every day I think the man upstairs that I ain't you and you ain't me. Get off my. And that's how we're starting the show this week.
So Hi-Fi is the DJ, and we're always surprised. And I'm so glad that he used the G-rated version of that song so as not to offend anybody. But I'm obviously joking because clearly that wasn't the G-rated version. But here we are.
That was the
Rad,
GOMD.
here we are, Rad Pod and Chill. I asked the guys to go easy on me, so of course High Fidelity decides to, roll with a non-G-rated version of a song. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. It's been a week. Glad to see you guys. The world's on fire, and no one could save me but you. Can we just start there? It's a crazy world out there, and I don't even know where to begin other than it's going to get a bit crazier because we're going to be learning more and more about the people involved in attacking the minds of Americans on behalf of Russian military intelligence. And I look forward to that.
I'm trying to deal with the fact that we're now facing a black Nazi who likes transsexual porn in North Carolina. This is the reality. What a time to be alive. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he called himself. I mean,
apparently,
yeah, and he's not dropping out of the race, which honestly is probably good because he's losing and he's going to lose, thank God. But the idea that we have this really very mentally ill individual, as the actual candidate for one of our major parties, it's fun to make jokes about, but it represents a very deep sickness, and we're seeing a lot of this, and unfortunately, it really is Nazis. And again, I've said this before, but there's nothing neo about that. Right. Just the fact that, Mark Robinson happens to be black, or Laura Loomer happens to be Jewish, or Chaya Raichik. It does not matter. No. Nazism is a disease of the brain that gets put there by, both nature and nurture. But it doesn't give a shit who you are, and it doesn't give a shit who it hurts. So in case anybody missed it, if I may, everyone has heard recently this horrific lie about Haitian immigrants, right? What most people don't know is where it came from. I wrote an article about this, and it's fucking crazy, and it's really important to understand. Because that lie went from a specific Nazi named Christopher Pohlhaus, who's a leader of Blood Tribe. And he and his Nazis have been trying to create problems in Ohio, and found some random person to make shit up about somebody eating pets. And he put it on his Telegram channel with 900 people in it. Laura Loomer took that lie, and Christopher Pohlhaus on his Blood Tribe channel took credit for it in real time. He was like, hey, that's us. For 60 million people to hear. And if you've seen this guy, he's got fucking tats. He's got the Nazi shit. He's wearing the swastika. He's got his little red outfit. And he cries, by the way, and this is funny, about being a literal cuck. That guy. And so that is where the lie of the Haitians came from, eating pets. And that it's important to understand that Laura Loomer then took that lie, and what happened? Got on Donald Trump's jet this woman is friends, at least, with almost every Nazi you can think of. If you can name a Nazi, she's really good friends with them. Nick Fuentes, Richard Spencer, Chuck Johnson, all of them. Milo, like, she is a Nazi for a fucking living. Now, there's an interesting side note that no one, to my knowledge, has picked up here, which is that a year before, she spread blood tribe Nazi propaganda to Donald Trump. She ran an operation with Blood Tribe and Russian intelligence proxy Russia Today, where Blood Tribe member Kent McClellan. So if you've seen the guy with the full tattoos, dude, and I'm not kidding, was the youngest grandfather in the United States at 30 years old. Think about it. So this Nazi LARPed that he was an Azov battalion fighter. He pretended to be super duper Azov. Why? Because the Russians were running an operation to tie Nazis to Azov regiment, which is the people who are on the ground now, as opposed to this old Nazi group from a long time ago called Azov Battalion. Totally unrelated at this point, but Russia wants to push that narrative. So who pushed that narrative? Well, Kent McClellan went on Russia Today and said, "Hi, I'm a big Nazi, and the CIA sent me to Ukraine to fight for Azov because look at me, I'm a Nazi with all the tattoos." And guess who was the one who popularized that, who pushed it fucking everywhere? Laura Loomer. That was a year ago. And suddenly, a year later, Laura Loomer shows up on Donald Trump's plane, and you can see the pictures of her walking off Donald Trump's plane, looking real pleased with herself. And right after that, Donald Trump takes the lie from that little motherfucker that you just saw, that Nazi, and said it to 60 million people. Not only that, for the last 10 days, they have been doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. And what has happened? What has happened in Springfield, Ohio? What has happened is a bunch of fucking Proud Boys showed up. A bunch of fucking Proud Boys with their little outfits and their flags, looking for people eating pets, intimidating people in this fucking town, despite the mayor and everybody in the town saying, "Leave us alone. This is not happening. This is bullshit." Moreover, at least 33 bomb threats, last I checked, to places in Springfield, Ohio, based on a lie created by that Nazi cock in Telegram. So when we have been screaming and yelling for fucking years now, no, seriously, this is Nazi shit.
Right.
We're not making euphemisms. We're not being pejorative.
No.
This is a Nazi movement. They are back, and we need to recognize it as such. Now, it's not just the Nazis. Who's funding it? The goddamn Russians. Why? Because what's it doing? It's making us talk about pet-eating immigrants instead of the fact that Kamala Harris kicked Donald Trump's ass all over the debate stage. All of this is just a big, holy fuck, I lost my ass and we have to make up something that's going to get people distracted. That's why I called, and I'm landing my plane, my article, The Great Distraction Theory, because all of this is about making a bunch of things that have nothing to do with what matters, which is that we have a rapist, criminal, demented, lunatic Nazi on one side and one of the most competent leaders to ever run for president on the other. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I need to build off the great distraction thing, because one of the things that came out during this whole Haitian, Springfield, eating cats bullshit that we've been dealing with is that Bernie Moreno, apparently, the word is he took $9.5 million in campaign funds to buy land to set up a new Mercedes dealership for himself. When questioned about it, he said, no, that's for my son. I'm leaving a legacy. But, that reminds me a lot. If you remember what happened during Trump's first term with his businesses, and the fact that he's going to be, continue to do this. This is all the bullshit they feed us is just, it's just distraction, like Jim's saying. It's just, look over here. Don't look at what we're doing over here.
So this goes back to what I've been saying for weeks, is that we're the dummies. We're the ones who are treating this as politics. We're the one putting a professional propagandist on stage so he can professionally propagandize. And when Jim uses the word Nazi, it's not to be cute. It's literally all I've been doing all week is studying the origin story of operations like this. And this is exactly what happened in Germany a century ago, where fake news was planted about this is about the whole, I'm trying to be careful with the words I use, but it's this is about the horror on the Rhine. These are fake stories that were planted about soldiers of color who there were stories made up on what was happening to the German women. And again, this was fake news that ran through the country that just completely was pure propaganda, and it was exploited to put fear and othering, and it was very effective, and it led to some of the worst atrocities. It led to when Nazis came into power, to forced sterilization of those who were of mixed race. It led to all kinds of awful. And the thing is, we're already here dealing with these people. We have a presidential candidate who will admittedly tell you that this is a lie. And here we are enduring, an entire country is being blanketed with information warfare, and we are still treating it, I'm sorry, but like politics. And Jim has said over and over again, this is not politics anymore. And so I feel like these are self-inflicted wounds at this point, because we are not doing what we are not being smart about and tactical about how we need to proceed when you actually put a professional propagandist on a debate stage, allowing him to see this kind of stuff, so we can be a country still in continual trauma over these horrible narratives. And every day something more horrible comes out. Every day something more horrible about their party and their alliances and their network. And every day we find out more about the connections between the Russians and Elon Musk pushing all of these horrible Russian ops, which, as Hi-Fi says, if Russia's paying for it, is it still free speech? So if I'm a little bit heated, it's because I see where this has been effective in the past. And I see where people ran around saying, oh, these people are weird, or what a clown, or what a showman, not taking it seriously, and not understanding that you don't need a majority for that kind of evil to get into power. And I would like us to use the 47 days we have left in this race to be much smarter and more strategic about how we handle narrative warfare when the entire country is being targeted with it. There's no rear areas. We are all being assaulted with narrative warfare.
Yep. I don't even know where to begin. I've been, as usual, tracking Flynn, and just because I've been very clear about my personal goals, and I think my co-hosts share it. My goal is to get a sane human being in the White House so that my kids, can raise their kids in a democracy. And I don't, this is it, right? And so I always focus on, well, what's the biggest danger right now? Flynn has been obsessively, and I'm just saying this to our audience because I think it's important, obsessively talking about mail-in ballots, how they're unconstitutional. Now, he's saying this while mail-in ballots are being sent in. And he's saying they're unconstitutional, and he knows of a case that is going to go to the Supreme Court, and they will rule it unconstitutional. Now, the fuck does that mean for the country should that happen? Well, if he's talking about ruling mail-in ballots are illegal, for example, in certain swing states, and wants to decertify those electoral votes, thereby reducing the Kamala's count under 270, we have a contingent election. And that sends the vote to the House. And then we have a constitutional crisis where the House and the Supreme Court say Donald Trump is the president. Everybody else says, fuck you. That's the scenario that they want. And the thing about Mike Flynn saying this stuff, it's not just Q. It's not Q saying this when he says that. As wacky and crazy and stupid as his propaganda is, he has I think 100% record now of sending amicus briefs, these official sort of, anybody can send them, but it's an official thing that you send to the court, of sending amicus briefs to the Supreme Court and having them take these cases and rule in exactly the way that Flynn wants, to include legalizing bump stocks. That's why the Supreme Court legalized machine guns 5 months before the fucking election. Is because Mike Flynn was like, hey, I got a case for you about these bump stocks, and we really need these for some fucking reason after the election, before and after the election. For some reason, we really need bump stocks. We need machine guns. And they were like, okay. So when he says this shit, they also did amicus briefs on the president's a king, and amicus briefs on all of the big cases, forgive me, that have come recently. And so when he says this, he's making an existential,
right,
civil war type threat, and it's not idle. Because if the Supreme Court takes this case or any of these cases that he's talking about and rules in a case that's critical to the election, we're fucked. We're fucking fucked.
We're not.
I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm trying to be lighthearted here. Somebody needs to explain to me why this scenario won't happen. Mm-hmm. Because this court, again, is not a court. It is not a court of law. Right. They don't care about the law. They do not care about the Constitution. Their goal is to create a Christian nation. In order to create a Christian nation, you have to break the Constitution, because the Constitution was all about not being a Christian nation. Thank you for coming to my second tech.
Serious second tech. Well, yeah. So I've got a lot of people because I've been in historic research all week and just pulled an all-nighter to read this book, which was written by a Berlin columnist in the 30s who knew all of them. She knew Hitler and Himmler and Hess and Goering and Goebbels and Leni Riefenstahl. She knew all of them because she wrote a column about diplomats. She also happened to be Jewish. She was able to stay in Germany as long as she did. She got out in 38, but she stayed as long as she did despite everybody warning her to leave because she had so many connections. She was actually able to save a lot of lives and get people out of places. Like at one point, she got 37 people out of Buchenwald. And when she moved to New York, the Nazis tried to kill her here because, as you know, the Germans sent spies and they sent influencers and they sent a lot of people to try to twist American minds toward their way of thinking. And luckily, New York detectives actually protected her and she helped bust a spy ring here. So her name is Bella Fromm. Her Berlin diary that she wrote, she always wrote stuff for herself that she then smuggled out of the country. So she wrote a front-facing column, and then she wrote, what ultimately was the stuff in this book. But the whole time she's there, watching her country get taken over with this disease, and having all these people who seemed so normal suddenly showing up as party members, and people she'd known her whole life, and there are so many things that she writes, and I will be writing in depth on this. There are so many things that she writes that are directly parallel to the times in which we live. When we look at people and we're like, how could they? Why would they? Well, there's all kinds of reasons. And some of it are these narratives that they seed where they get everybody afraid of everything. And what her big concern was, and this is something we don't talk enough about, Dr. Ian Gardner talks about it in Russia, but we don't really talk about it enough in America. Her concern is what they were doing to the young people, how they were indoctrinating the young people. Now, we know that there are youth movements that are, Christian nationalists and MAGA based. So we have to, at some point, probably talk more about that. But she saw her neighbor kids no longer come around and no longer come see her anymore because in their schools, they were being told propaganda about people like her. And it broke her heart. And, so I guess kind of what the theme is, usually this show is a little bit lighter, but the theme is that we got 47 days to deal with this absolute malaise that's come over our country, that I just feel like people are clowning if they're saying, oh, don't worry about it, just vote him out. It's like, okay, well, yeah. And what about Oklahoma today? Didn't they purge like 500,000 people off the voter rolls? Like, it's like, yeah, I want to think that we're going to activate the 100 million people who forget to show up every election. I'd like to think that we're going to have such a crushing victory that those who are trying to challenge the election will not be able to by noodling the margins. But I want people to, I guess, stay very uncomfortable and stay in action and the labor of democracy, and not be seduced into thinking, oh, don't worry, we'll just vote him out. We have to also get every single Trump appointee out, which is something she talks about. You start letting these people inside government, you start placing these people into positions of power, you got a problem. And so, that's where my focus is.
The actual number is 453,000 voters were purged from the Oklahoma voter rolls.
Okay, so thanks.
There was a clip recently with Peter fucking Thiel, in which he said that if it's close, the Democrats are going to cheat. Peter, like the guy who owned,
I'm still a piece of garbage.
Pretty good.
I needed that.
Slightly behind. Slightly behind, but it was good. It was
I needed that.
What's that?
It was solid. It was
Solid.
7.
So Peter fucking Thiel says out loud, the Democrats are going to steal the election. They're going to cheat. The fucking oligarch that controls JD Vance said that out loud. Him and Elon Musk are fucking enemy combatants, and one of the biggest like nests that the biggest messes we have right now is the glob of connective tissue between the PayPal mafia and the goddamn government of the United States. Peter Thiel, that motherfucker, who said that the Democrats are going to cheat, also makes billions and billions of dollars from the goddamn U.S. government. And what he does is, by the way, just a side note, Bill fucking fuck you, Mar. Peter Thiel has a little elf. His name's Alex Karp. I don't know if you've seen this guy, but it's cute. And he's got a lot of hair, and he kind of talks like a little bit woo. And he's like, I sort of like Hillary, and that's not so bad. Palantir is just a big, fun, weird company, and and he just kind of does this little fucking dance. And in the meantime, he runs this murder operation, this private intelligence terrorist fucking organization that the government that sells its services and our data to anyone the fuck it wants. It's got all of Facebook. It's got every social media company on planet Earth, and it aggregates these things, and then it uses AI. And what's it do, by the way? Targets people. For example, in Gaza. They're using this motherfucker software to target civilians in Gaza. And this is the guy who's up there getting the Supreme Court and the United States public ready for some kind of fucking civil war, right? Because what is the other purpose of him saying that? What other purpose is it? Somebody explain to me why he's going to say that we cheated if it's close. The reason he said that is to back up the plan that they already have for violence and some kind of goddamn constitutional crisis after the election. So there are a lot of things, and it's especially confusing when I'm on the PayPal Mafia's fucking website talking about this stuff, right? Like right next to me, you got Elmo. And every time, like he tweeted a little tweet, vote for Trump or whatever it was, 74 million views. He engineered that fucking tweet so that 74 million people saw it by putting it in everybody's For You, right? Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody was like, it's engineered, and it's engineered by these foreign intelligence operatives, frankly, that need to have all their shit nationalized and given back to the people that they stole it from, because but that's it's going to take some time to unfuck ourselves from that, but I think it's important context as we try and navigate, okay, how are we getting around this election, because those people are doing everything in their power to fuck it up.
I'm a little annoyed because you have all of these longtime media commentators going, why hasn't anybody been writing about the danger of Elon Musk? And why hasn't anybody? And it's like, we've been doing it for years. I've been doing it on my Substack. Jim's been doing it on his Substack. We've been doing it on RadPod. And if we seem a little salty, it's because we've been warning about these players and these characters for years, long before anybody knew.
IFA has a slogan.
I literally have a shirt that says Elon Musk is a fucking problem.
Hi-Fi
mean,
was saying that before anybody was saying that. We've been saying that. We've been saying that. We've been doing this for a long time. And, you know, again, do they really think that all of a sudden, like, what is today, Thursday, that corporate controlled media and billionaire owned media and hedge fund, you know, media is going to all of a sudden wake up and go, gee, we better warn people about the dangers to democracy. That's not what's happening. What's happening is you still have people going, why are they writing articles like this? And why are there these normalization Trump pieces still? It's like, you guys, you know, it's not like there's going to be like this, you know, huge, you know, awakening in our media between now and November. It's just
ooh. I have some good news that I saw right before we came on.
Good news.
So does anybody? Well, is there? It's not. I mean, it's not. It's hard to call it good news, but you'll see. Does anybody know what Ashley Madison is?
Oh God, that's weird. Yes, I actually was doing an investigation on that today for some random reason. But go ahead.
So Ashley Madison is the website where married people find fuck buddies to.
It's a funny people.
You guys are so eloquent.
Well, okay, so but people also
it's a honeypot.
Okay, but it's also a place where people actually meet. But in terms of being a honeypot, one of the people whose email was leaked on there is a little turd named Christopher Rufo.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is good news. That is good news.
Rufo of the Manhattan Institute?
That is good news.
Christopher Rufo of
that
CRT?
Is good news.
Hold on.
Rufo of DEI?
Moms for Liberty.
So listen, by the way, if you guys are following Lauren Windsor on the Twitters or wherever the fuck you are, you should, because she's the one who nailed this little fucker, and she also nailed Roger Stone and Sam Alito. That's a fucking journalist. I found one.
Great.
And guess what she did? She found this leak and she just emailed it. guess who responded? Him.
Oh my God.
So if you don't know, Christopher Rufo is the worst shit bag little fucker. Hi-Fi went through some of them, but he did Disney Groomers was his big. It was his big debut. I'm gonna make some complete bullshit up about Disney and groomers because I want to, we need some
culture wars,
some red meat for DeSantis and
moral panic. Yeah.
And so he did that, and he was like, "Whoa, that worked." And then he did CRT. Yeah. That little motherfucker wrote an article saying that was total bullshit. Wasn't it awesome how it completely conned everybody? He literally wrote an article that said that. Yeah. Also DEI.
Yeah.
And he's also was put by DeSantis,
Mr. Woke,
as to be in charge of the new college, and has completely fucking, like they're pushing back, but it's a disaster. Like he's just the worst, shittiest little chaos agent on earth. Yeah. Who all he does is create moral panic about other people, and this philandering little hypocrite got caught.
Wow.
So anyway, that again, I don't know if it's good news, but I'm enjoying the news. Let's put it that way.
You know what?
Hold on. I need to bask for a moment in the perfection of Jim using the word philandering, because that is exactly the proper word for Christopher Rufo.
Also, he was behind engineering Moms for Liberty, and there was some philandering, chicanery with that crew as well. But
you mean wait, Moms for Threesomes? I think that's what you said, right?
Moms for Libertines, as High Fidelity would say. But in all seriousness, these people really hurt people. These people really hurt young people. These people really hurt young gay people and trans people. People like Christopher Rufo have really hurt so many people. But I do anticipate the Schadenfreude to be cranked up to 11 in the next couple of days. I've got all my global networks of independent reporters were checking in with each other. Dietmar Pichler is following up on the Austrian, Kremlin stooges who have been, stooging, for Russia and their own news spheres. And so it's going to be, I think pretty soon we're all just kind of gonna, obviously I'm going to get to work and do a lot of reporting, but I think we're also going to have to take a moment and embrace some of the schadenfreude that is about to happen, because there's all these people who have been doing Russian shit and hurting our collective sense of truth for many, many years. And many of them are about to be exposed. Obviously, not all of them. There's a lot of informal collaborators, but many of them are about to be exposed. So, should be good times.
I want to invite people once again to a very simple algorithm that I've developed. It's called Stewartson, how to find Russian agents. You ready? Write this down. Are they doing Russian shit? Yes. No. That's it. I just write it down again. Are they doing Russian shit? Yes. No. On one side, now to be fair, when in the yes category, sometimes they're just stupid, and they're just they're just following along, and they don't actually know that they're Russian propagandists.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of doesn't matter because it's got the same net result, but
Right.
From a criminal perspective,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But then you have all these other assholes, and you can tell because they're really nasty. You can because they're devious about it, because they're intent. They're not just dumb; they're hiding their purpose. And if the net result is to benefit the Russian Federation, you got yourself a Russian propagandist. It's not that hard. It really is not hard. And yes, there are lots of layers, and people have LARPs in between. And I don't care about Russia, and I just think you're blue and not whatever the fuck. Right?
Yeah.
They may have their excuses, but at the end of the day, who are they hurting? Right?
Yeah.
What is the net result of all this activity? Right? If it's to benefit, if it's to hurt people who are trying to help, or if it is help the enemy, you're an agent of an enemy foreign power. It's not hard.
So, or asset, or whatever A word you want to use, but doesn't matter to me either.
You're a tool.
So Paul Manafort, for example, what do you call a guy who took $70 million from Russian bagmen to try to hand Ukraine to Russia? What do you call him? Like asset agent? What do you call him? I don't really care what you call him.
Operative.
So
He's an operative.
So here's great. This is great though. This is a perfect time to talk about what we always get around to on our show, which is our most recent episode. We interviewed our friend, disinformation analyst Alex Alvarova, who grew up in Czechoslovakia when it was under Soviet rule, now the Czech Republic. And she has a lot of experience understanding how narrative warfare is seeded, how active measures occur. She's the one who taught us about Zersetzung, which is the Stasi attacks on reporters during the 70s and 80s when they couldn't outright kill them. So they hired tens of thousands of people to actually try to destroy them, from the inside. And there's lots and lots of interesting things that we've talked to Alex about over the years, but it was a perfect time to talk about controlled opposition and narrative seeding, because what we are seeing a lot of, and this is something that I documented in Philippine troll farms and how they work. You'll have the purchaser who's got the money that shapes the narrative, and then you have the chief architect who's in charge of the operation, and then you have the influencer who's like the mid-level that looks like it could have some credibility, and then you have the lower tier. And it actually functions a lot like a drug cartel, and how money is laundered through drug cartels and how everybody has their place. But Alex broke it down for us, and we've got 4 clips. Let's start with the number 1.
Position is actually nothing new to me, and nothing new to all the people who lived their lives partially in during the communist time and with the Soviets, basically. First of all, I have a brilliant example from Anton Chekhovtsov, an Ukrainian political scientist, who described in one of his books a situation in the late 90s when the first Moscow oligarchs financed together an avant-garde Moscow theater. It means like leftist, crazy stuff in the theater, new, something like very provocative and new and unheard of. And together, the fascist militia against them, disturbing the theater, disturbing the play, shouting and throwing tomatoes and making all kind of like violent chaos around. And they did it. They financed these 2 parts just for fun at that time, to control some kind, to bring some narrative in, to make people talk about it, you know. And that was there was the time when information warfare was still in very young. There was no Putin, no nothing. It just the very first blueprint of how the controlled opposition might work.
How the controlled opposition might work. So here's a funny little story that might help illuminate this entire freaking point. Is I had to come out of hiding on Twitter this week because a senior BBC journalist wanted to try to step up to one of our associates, and I had to, kick his ankles out from under him because that's what I do. And out of nowhere, absolutely out of nowhere, one of our longtime stalkers showed up to defend the journalist. And that devolved into a whole big thing.
All right.
Anyway, that's how controlled opposition can work.
Over and over and over and over again. And when you start to see the gig stalkers piling on, you can kind of figure out how these operations work. They have a very kind of set sort of template. Somebody bearing some legitimacy attacks, let's say, one of our team members. Of course, we are going to defend our team members. And then the whole idea is to then denigrate us and run malinformation campaigns on us. And but it's great because Alex does a great job of breaking down sort of the bigger picture with these operations. She tells 2 other stories that are really important at the beginning that it's worth hearing. Jim, do you want to weigh in before we see the next clip?
Yeah, I mean, I as a little bit of background, right? Lenin said, what's the best way to control the opposition? To be the opposition, right? So it is a long and well-known mode of influence agents, people from an enemy, to plant themselves in positions where they seem to be on one side of a sort of political divide. But what they're actually doing is changing the narrative, is moving it away from the truth towards some other thing. Or as Alex was saying in her example, of being idiots on purpose. Right? On being crazy, and I'm a leftist, look how crazy I am. It's sort of like, I was telling the story about Kent McClellan with the face tattoos being, Azov. Yeah. Same fucking thing.
Right.
That's controlled opposition. I hate the Russians, but I'm a Nazi. Isn't that weird? That it's a similar thing, right? And there are well-known actors out here on the left that behave this way, that intentionally act crazy in order to make everybody else seem fucking nuts. And there are also people, you know, in sort of mainstream, you know, influencers and media and whatever, who act as kind of gatekeepers. They're like, you know, ooh, you know, I agree with this much, but don't go there. That's crazy talk. Or, you know, I like everything you do, but don't listen to these people. They're nuts, right?
Mhm.
This is not some sort of, you know, crazy secret operative thing. It just happens all the fucking time.
Mhm.
And just as a last note, the Russians paid $10 million like that.
Yeah.
For 4 podcasters that people sort of vaguely know. Well, maybe 5, I guess, if the one other dude. For like 6 months or something to fund this one little thing. Now, if you listen to Julie Davis, and you should, you will know that Margarita Simonian, the head honcho of Russia Today, said that we have lots of guerrilla operations,
Mhm.
all in English, that don't advertise themselves as Russia Today at all. And she claims, and you know, it's fucking her, 14 billion views on this basically covert network, of which the DOJ indictment that we saw was one itty bitty little thing. Now imagine the kind of influence you could have on people on the internet for some fraction of that.
Right.
Say you
Right.
had $100,000 in your pocket,
Right.
and you could just run around to a bunch of people on the internet and say, "Hey, you know what? Here's 10K. All I need you to do is go to town on that motherfucker over there."
Right.
It's
Right.
not. It is not a a hard scenario to imagine, and I assure you, it happens all the goddamn time.
Yeah, and these operatives and operations were put in place many years ago, and there are some accounts, particularly on Twitter, that have been doing this type of work for a very long time. And one thing we learned very early on in doing RadPod is that they don't go after people who are ineffective and not doing good work. They go after people who are doing good work. That is small comfort when, you know, every time I have to open the platform, which is where information warfare is being waged, and I'm on the front lines of that, but I have to put on my kind of emotional punk rock armor before I even go descend into that cesspool, because we are behind enemy lines. It is very challenging, but on the other hand, you know, we've been doing this for a very long time, and not backing down now. But yeah, it's really important for people. What Alex talked about, that I think we're going to work on moving forward as a theme, is that why it's been so effective is that Americans are very gullible and naive about this stuff. We can't believe that anybody would actually do this. We can't believe that people, you know, would spend all day hanging out on Twitter with the intention of hurting other people. Like, can't believe that somebody would be on TV telling you Russian propaganda. If you grow up in a communist country, as she did, you can believe it. But Americans allow our vulnerabilities, our goodness, and really our kind of inherent naivete on how this stuff works to fool us to our own, you know, it's to our own, I don't want to say demise, but potential. So this stuff is serious. Yes, high fidelity.
I just need to point out something. This is not it's not a country-based phenomena anymore. This is international, right?
Yeah.
We know the bomb threats, according to Governor Mike DeWine, came from overseas. We see that Iran tried to set up the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party did the right thing and went to the FBI with the information.
Yeah.
It's it's pretty sad that people don't realize what is coming for us is not just these authoritarians and the resources that they've stolen from their countries, but also the internet. A lot of these people who are engaged in this type of activity are on the internet, and the internet pulls them into real life situations that twist their realities. In the case of Zukowski, the sheriff of the next county over from me, believe it or not, he's gone QAnon. He's gone MAGA. He has, he posted on Twitter under his account, Mike Flynn, Great Awakening, what a great show. And he was at Doral Trump Resort, and he posted a picture with his wife from there. And the next thing you know, he's spouting off about people with Harris signs.
So let's just also take this a step further. The reason we need international cooperation on this stuff and some sort of international treaty, which Hi-Fi has been talking about for years, is because this is no longer borders. Like MAGA and its variations and QAnon and its variations, it's all gone global. It's not contained to America's borders. And that was one of the really startling things that I learned from Dr. Creel's film, the second one about disinformed and disinformation. It's like these cult-like narratives, which are designed to obfuscate reality, anti-science, whatever it is actually bleeding out into, beyond international, borders. And so that's why we do this work, because we just want people to know and figure out how, what we can all do in our own lives to really stop this spread. Jim. Okay, let's watch Alex's next clip then.
Intel, the CIA, and the MI6 spoke in the Financial Times forum openly about the risks of the present era, and both of them said that the highest level, actually the first level of our defense and also attack, that's interesting, is the narrative intelligence, the narrative warfare. In the first line, the people working in narrative warfare are in the first line of our defense and attack. So let's translate it to the language of no ordinary people. It means that the highest capacity in the warfare, where no shots are fired, surrounding us right now, is concentrated in the narrative, informing the narrative. It means telling people stories they can actually believe about their life, their qualities. What should they think about the world surrounding them? That's the first line of the war. It means that the journalists who are actively writing and influencing, they have an incredible reach, or each journalist is like writing and influencing from thousands to million people. It can be scaled up, but it's still different. Every single brain counts.
Every single brain counts. And yet we sit here and do nothing because, as everyone who watches this show knows, J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel funded a website called Rumble, and RT, Russia Today, that big arm of the FSB, is still available on the website funded by a vice presidential candidate of the United States of America. And that's just one more.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
It took too long. It was obvious what you were doing. It was,
Damn it.
3.5. I'm sorry. I
all right, fine. Hey, not every single one can be a banger, man.
I call balls and strikes. Your last three have been pretty good. 8 and above. So, hang in there, champ. We'll,
working on it.
We'll get there.
Oh, no. By the way, the Portage County sheriff that was trying to intimidate Harris voters, he is now on the walk back saying he was misinterpreted. So I'd love to interview that guy and get his point of view.
So sheriffs is a fucking problem.
Yeah, huge.
We have this entire layer of fucking weirdos that we do not need, that have armed themselves like little lieutenants when they got their Humvees and they got their ARs and they're fucking we've created these little law enforcement fiefdoms that have curdled in many places intentionally.
Yeah.
And they've turned these fuckers into constitutional sheriffs that promise to fight the federal government if things don't go the way they want, if they decide to kick their little fists. And if you go to their conferences, they're literally QAnon conferences. But I want to address what Alex said about narrative, because what human beings don't really that I didn't understand until I've been doing this business for a long time and really thought about this shit. Stories are the way that we actually store information. Stories. We store information, stories. For example, like if you burn your fucking hand when you're 5 years old, that's a story that you tell yourself every time you see the fucking stove, right? These anecdotes, these stories are the way that we learn. I'll give you one other example. Here's a story. Holy shit, there's a fucking saber-toothed tiger behind the rock, right? Now imagine for a second, you got this other dude over here, and he says, nah, I'm on your team, but there's no saber-toothed tiger. Don't worry about that guy over there. Come over here and look at my distraction. Because guess what? This guy was on the fucking saber-toothed tiger's team. That's controlled opposition.
Yeah.
And that's caveman stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So this sort of thing is this kind of hack is built into us. What's another story? If you're not a good boy or good girl, your parents are going to go to heaven and you're going to be left down here looking around for them, going like, fuck, where did mom and dad? Well, murderers chase you around. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's called Left Behind. It is a book series that lots of people have consumed as kids. That story has sunk into them that if they don't do what they're told by this sort of, institution, that fear of being left behind, of being left alone is triggered. And you see it in these old white men who are so terrified and want to make everybody terrified because, it's stories. It's bad stories that have been told to people over and over again. And it's bad stories, and I'm sorry to repeat this, but Voltaire said, those who can make you believe absurdities are those who can make you commit atrocities. And what he was talking about was narrative warfare of exactly the kind that Alex was talking about.
Thank you. I don't think you can say that enough. We can't assume everybody watches every episode. It's important that people understand what the core of all of this is. And I would like to see Alex's third clip, if we have it.
It's also a matter of culture. Please don't take me wrong. I'll be maybe, and don't take it too hostile, but Americans are so gullible. They are so.
No. We're not. Nobody's taking that.
You can play them so easy. It's so like they think because of they are one of the strongest and largest nation in the world that there are no threats. They are absolutely safe on their own space, and there would be no. Why would anyone lie to them? Why would anyone lie to me, to a representative of the strongest state of the North Atlantic Treaty? I am the one. I have guns. We are 30 million. We are 300 million people. We have everything. Why would anyone dare to play with us? And this is this is the weakness. This is the largest weakness. The Russians, but not only Russians, all the enemies of you guys. That's what they see, and they hit it. This point, they hit it. They keep hitting it. Your gullible goodness. You are very good people. You cannot believe that there are nations, cultures, and players on the scene who have bad intentions, evil methods, and who are really, really cruel just for fun.
Tough love, man. That's fucking tough love. Listen, if
I
you
love
haven't,
her.
if you didn't
her.
catch all of that, I would like you to do is listen to that like 15 more times, and then give it to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
It's fucking true, and we need to get this thing.
Yeah.
And what she's saying is that we have this naivete, right, in America still. And part of the reason is because it didn't happen here, right? We were the heroes of World War II. We defeated the Nazis. That's over with, right? We've been conditioned in the same way that they conditioned us to Russia. That this whole Nazi thing is just, you stop being so lib. It's really not. We're gullible for a reason, because we've been, in many ways protected from the real bad shit that can go down when a country goes south. And we need to stand up and make sure it doesn't fucking happen here.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I know. I started the hour feeling kind of like morose. I have a lot of writing ahead, a lot of work ahead, and I'm concluding it feeling a lot better. I always feel better when we do the work, and our work is to inform people, and hopefully they can then inform people and make good decisions. But listen to Alex's interview in its entirety. She knows what she's talking about. And as Jim said, a little bit of tough love may actually go a long way. It's very important to know that these techniques, as Jim was saying, have been around for a very long time. And even though things have moved online, it's also important to note that it's not just online. There's a lot of money involved in trying to diminish those doing the work. And so there are also things that happen in real life that people should be on the alert for. And quite frankly, ask yourself, anybody who does this work, if something feels fishy, it's okay to put your mental health and your safety above everything unapologetically. In fact, I recommend it. Hopefully we'll see everybody on the other side of victory, but we have a lot of work to do between now and then, and there's going to be a lot of subterfuge, and we see it daily. High Fidelity, we have one more clip.
You will recognize them. So it means when you see the consequences of their action, when it makes more harm, more chaos, more pain, and more like when it damages America, who are they? What do they do? Why? For whom?
Why? For whom?
Yeah, you just ask yourself that question. Look at what they do, right? Why are they doing what they do? It's not a hard question to ask.
No, it's not. But one thing I just learned from Alex recently is about narrative shaping. There are those in media who do the work where it seems like they're doing a good job, but the takeaway, for example, let's look at Elon Musk. The takeaway is Elon Musk makes a comment about Kamala and Tim Walz. Oh, and Elon is quoted as saying, I was just kidding. I guess it didn't go so well. So you're parroting somebody minimizing it. allowing that weaponized irony to seed. And then ultimately, if it ends with Elon Musk is too powerful for anybody to be able to do anything about him, that's narrative shaping, because that's actually not true. There was just an arrest, have you already forgotten, with a tech prop in France. So we can do things, we can do big things. And in fact, reading Blood and Banquets, the book I'm reading, she's like, declare war on these people. Like, you know, deal with them now. It can happen anywhere. It can happen wherever you are. And so
that's the frame we need to take that we haven't yet taken. Is these motherfuckers have declared war on us?
Yeah.
What I mean, just in what we saw, right?
Yeah.
What in their own documents, what they said to each other.
Yeah.
They said to each other, this is how we're going to interfere with their elections.
Right.
What the fuck is that not war? Anyway.
Yeah, so good stuff to think about.
Thank you for being here, everybody.
Yeah, read Jim at mindwar.com. You'll find me at bettydangerous.com. You'll find
Mind-war, just
Mind-war. You will also find High Fidelity surreptitiously defending the honor and integrity of those who warrant the defense. I never know where he is. He's kind of like one of those. He's kind of like one of those. I don't know, some character out of some Marvel comic thing where it's just like only the shadow knows. You know, there he is somewhere. So I'm always grateful for the work that you do. That
I find that no more fucking X-rated outros, right? Just checking.
No.
I'm
feeling pretty chill after this venting session, actually.
All right, good.
But you know,
what do you got?
Words are my thing.
Just go out.
I wish. No, I got something to say.
Oh God.
I wish America would just get their shit together and realize we are under attack. I don't know how many times we have to say this. I don't know how many times we have to point this out. I mean, we've seen them in the simp rags for oligarchs, as I came up with. I never thought it'd be the BBC, but here we are, right? It's that's life for you, and we're just gonna keep on swinging until we can't swing no more.